Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is War Rabbit, and today we're going to be talking about the changes that came in the new Balance Dataslate to the Tau Empire. And there's a good changes overall. Some weird ones, but that's okay. Let's get into it. So the first change, obviously, is going to be the change to the Tau Army rule. So originally it was you had two units work in tandem, and then one of them would be the guider, one of them will be the spotter, and one would be the guided unit that targets an enemy. The guide unit would give a benefit to the spotted unit, and now it's changed to just have it be so when your guider can now just guide for your whole army, and then they all get the benefits of the +1 ballistic skill, and if they have the marker light, ignores cover. In addition, it also allows the spotted unit to ignore the split fire penalty because they got rid of it, so now you can split fire without having a -1 ballistic skill, which is actually probably the bigger change in my opinion because it makes the Titanic models much better. The next change would be the Kalyan. Kalyan lost its sustain hits too, and it was changed with ignore ballistic skill modifiers into hit modifiers, which is a definite nerf, but sustain hits too is just bad for the game on army wide. The next thing, and the enhancements for Montka and Kalyan, you just have they change it to a guided unit rather than the guided unit. So that means all models in your army, when they target a spotted model with a character unit with this enhancement, with either of these enhancements, they all gain the benefits, either lethal hits or sustained hits one. So it's a huge damage increase for the army when they're targeting a specific unit. Next one is the datasheet changes. It's just making it so that they all are compatible. So the fire sight, now whenever it targets a spotted unit, it can reroll hit roll. It used to just be when it targets its spotted unit, it can reroll the hit roll. Now it's just all spotted units. Pathfinders lost their double mark, which is kind of a huge blow for them. But they do get a moderate increase in damage, which is good. And the stealth suits, again, just being more compatible with the army rule by giving it a guided unit, so they can re-roll his hit roll of 1 and a re-roll wound roll of 1 as well for the whole army instead of just one unit. So Kalyan got nerfed pretty bad. Yeah, it's just no way around it. Kalyan was arguably the best performing detachment. It's definitely a nerf, probably a nerf in my opinion. Definitely a nerf in my opinion. Some people say it's probably a nerf. State hits 2, army-wide, it was a really bad rule for the game, as Mordaka has shown. It needed to be changed, even with its massive limitations and whatnot. You can't have sustained hits 2 for like any army. Like his orcs were hitting on 5s and it was still busted, you know. So because it's effectively like a +2 to hit or something like that. I could be wrong in the numbers, but I know sustained hits 1. If you're hitting above a ballistic skill of 4, it's effectively +1 to hit. Ignoring hit rolls and modifiers and BS modifiers is pretty huge. But it's definitely a nerf still, because sustained hits 2 is just so much better. But that change makes it so that your indirect is much better now. Like, it's smart missile systems are now going to be insanely good shooting into random chaff hiding behind walls. So like Imperial Guard mortar teams, Eldar aspect warriors hiding behind walls, hell, orc boys hiding behind walls. SMS are going to do a ton of damage to these things because they're always, especially in turn 3, where a lot of the staging units in the game are still hiding behind walls trying to be trade pieces. So it's definitely going to make it harder to just fight a Kalyan army on turn 3, 4, and 5, which tends to be where most of the game now has been happening. I think turn 2 is when the game really starts. Turn 1, just all staging. Points changes. This is probably a weird thing. So they buff through Unity v Devastation. They buff coordinated exploitation, right? And then they just uber nerf them. they're unusable now. They really are. Both those enhancements, I don't think you're going to ever see play. They saw some play because they were cheap and they gave 1 unit lethals or sustains depending on which enhancement. But at this point, because it's not just 40 points on a character that costs whatever, this is going to be 50 to 60 points of the cheapest character we have that can take it, which is an Ethereal or Cadre Fireblade. And then you got to attach them to the cheapest unit that they can attach to, which is Strike Team, which is, I believe, 75 points. So it comes out to be 175 points just to use this enhancement. And the enemy player, your opponent, is going to target that unit as quickly as possible. So if you take it on a crisis team, right, and you throw it on Sun Forges with an enforcer, that's like 300 points. Probably not. Probably not. My math's probably a little wrong. That's probably closer to like 270 or something like that. But it's effectively a lot more than what you would want to pay for any of these enhancements. And you're turning a crisis team, which you tend to want to be guided, into a guider, which is not necessarily a good thing, unless you're like in Calyon, I guess, and you can do coordinate to engage or whatever the enhancement is. Not enhancement, the stratagem. That lets you work in pairs and gain AP buffs and still get the benefits of for the greater good. So it's okay. Like there's definitely usage. It's just I'm not paying 40 points for it. It's just too much. It's too steep a hurdle. And most of the enhancements, like even now, I'm still not taking. But maybe there's a reason to take them. Stealth suits went up too much. I don't think they should have gone up at all. I think it's plus 20 points. Yeah, you're still taking them in triplicate because they're stealth suits. They are the new Tetra. From the index, if you remember that thing before it got legend. It's just too good. I get the points change. I don't think it should have gone up because I think this was just a just in case change to see what would happen, and then they're probably going to reduce their points next update. I'd assume, or at least reduce the cost of something else that they buff, because at 80 points for 3, I'm still not going to take them in 6-mans because 6-mans don't do what I want, because Tau are very points restricted and they're trying their best to keep the numbers down so you get as many units in the field as possible that can shoot. Stealth suits are going to be providing that massive damage increase. They're going to be the first things to be targeted. And once they're gone, you're going to have a lot. Your turn 2, 3, or turns 2 and 3, they're going to be gone because it doesn't matter what you do, the primary target for a Tau army is the stealth suits. So yeah, I don't know, kind of feels bad. Crew carnivores, again, another massive feels bad moment. Why did it go up 10 points? I get it, crew hunting pack probably had a high win rate for a weekend or 2 in a row because some crazy guy was doing all crew and it worked for like 3 minutes until Death Guard got released, and now you have 120 poxwalkers just doing their job better. So it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, is what it is. Okay, so now we are to the Pathfinders. Again, they got a massive damage buff with the ability change. The next slide's gonna be a table of it, but the loss of double guide is a huge nerf, especially with the changes to the army rule. I get it; they probably didn't want Pathfinders to be like 120 points, but at this point, I think Firesight Marksmen are just a better unit now for guiding because he has a marker light and he's got lone op and he's 70 points, and yeah, his damage isn't as high, but he's just a better marking piece now. And you save 20 points, so it's a massive change in that regard. I like the mix up because now like you're probably going to see a lot of Firesight Marksmen, especially for like enhancements that can actually just be put on random garbage. He's actually pretty decent for that. So going to the damage table, I don't know if these numbers are 100% accurate, but they do reflect the damage increase on all the stuff. So before, they were averaging pretty middling numbers because a lot of their heavy weapons that they had hit on 5s, and they're moving around a lot because they have to be marking. Now you might get, this doesn't account for any buffs other than the +1 to hit from for the greater good. So heavy's going to be nice if you can somehow stand still. Obviously, these numbers are going to go up. One thing that I'm really looking at is the ion rifles. They got a massive damage increase from this, right? Because now they have 3 shots each, and they're basically plasma guns. So a Pathfinder team is going to be pumping out in like Calyon if you can somehow get it, or even like just sprinting around in Mont Ka with assault, is going to be pumping out 9 plasma shots. Now that's not super amazing for what it could be, but 9 plasma shots is going to be dropping, half a intercessor squad, or even, stripping off, knocking out a Terminator or 2. And that's huge value for a unit that's effectively just like, oh yeah, I'm running around. Like you get like Dark Strider in there to +1 to wound. You might, like a Pathfinder team might be able to pick up like a whole 5-man Marine squad if you roll hot. So it's going to be really interesting. The T11 stuff, the T12, like shooting vehicles with the +1 to wound, with the rail rifles is probably actually a decent anti-tank option. I don't know how useful it's going to be, but it's definitely something the Pathfinders are now a new, completely different tool in the toolbox, because you used to just be, you target two things, maybe double target the same guy that you targeted last time, so you can just delete something quickly. Now it's these guys are going to be doing some decent damage. Like their chaff clear is actually going to be pretty good now as well, targeting random garbage, and especially with split firing now too, you could spot and then target things and so forth. So the enhancements, again, the changing to the 3 unit TUD or 3 unit devastation or coordinated exploitation. I like the changes. I think that this is good, obviously, because they didn't wait 3 months like sometimes they do to update the rules, so they actually work properly with the new update. So they matched the army rule, so they thought ahead on that one, which is good. Thank you, GW, for doing that. But the nerf to the points is just insane. There's just no way I'm taking these. I don't see, like, maybe in a casual game, like haha hee hee, I've got lethal hits when I spot the whole game, which is nice. Like having a TUD with like a storm surge or a town R with lethals and sustained ones in turn 3, somehow you get that. Like if somehow you get that in turn 3, you keep the big boys alive, that's gonna be pretty big. Montka, sustain hits 1 is going to be nice, like through the whole game you're able to consistently get that in Montka for the big boys, because that's a lot of damage increase, to be honest. But 40 points is just way too steep. I could see 30 would probably make this much more enticing for both of these. I think that's just if you didn't have to lead a model, like if you lead a unit, not a model, if you didn't leave a unit, I think that there's no extra tax. 40 points, definitely. Yeah, that's a good change, because that's your whole army getting lethals against the target for 40 points. And you throw that on a Firesight Marksman, and it's basically impossible to get it out. It was one of like the main things with like people at the beginning of the Codex. They didn't understand the Firesight Marksman can't get these enhancements to get the benefits, but they'd still throw it on there and cheat in tournaments, and it'd do really well. So that's kind of what I'm thinking here. So now we're going to sample lists. Obviously, we talked about the Town R earlier, but I think that a fun casual list now with the Town R is actually much better. So we go to the HQs. I'm picking an Ethereal because Tower very CP hungry, so Ethereal, Shadow Sun are basically almost auto include. I think 2 Ethereals is technically better than Shadow Sun, but if you're running Shadow Sun, you're probably putting her in a Kalyun list so you can get those benefits. I think it's Wall of Mirror stratagem, the one that lets you uppy downy with her, basically. Darkstrider, because I have a Pathfinder. I'm really from my playtesting, Darkstrider and Pathfinders are actually really good damage now. It's just that they're kind of weak, so maybe rail rifles, because you can hide them in the back, and the rail rifles have a decent long range effect. So infantry, 3x10 crew carnivores. You can probably do 2x10 and pick something else, but crew carnivores, they're just really good for 10 man. You need them for screening. They have scout, they have stealth. They're annoyingly durable for what they are. You can charge them onto stuff as a trade piece. They can pick up, guard squads or a 5-man aspect warrior. It's just decent. Stealth suits, you're always taking 3 of them. There's an argument for 2. I don't like the argument. Always take 3 in my opinion. And Vespid, just so I have that backline harass unit that I'm not, pretty much all my lists I built don't really have. Vehicles, you need the Town R is good on its own, but you need as much redundancy as you can, because they're gonna shoot everything to the Town R no matter what for the first like 2 turns until it dies. So you need to make them pay in blood, and the Town R can't really do that on its own. So you have to do 2 Sky Rays. That's just more sustained long range anti-tank damage, and the 2 Hammerheads just do knockout blows. So if the Town R shoots into something, the Hammerheads can take out one of the other pieces that was trying to shoot it down. So you can basically use a Town R as this distraction card effect. So you have to pop out to shoot the Town R. Because if you don't, and it gets Expel Elemental Weapons, Cadre, extra AP, you keep this in a Kalyun. If the Town R is alive in Kalyun in turn 3, shit's about to hit the fan. Especially because you're going to start guiding it, and it's going to be ignoring line of sight. It has 4 smart missile systems, like 24 or something shots. Ignore line of sight. That's a lot of shots shooting into something. It's got 36-inch range. It's going to be nuts. Yeah, experimental weapons, just this is you're targeting him with your overcharge stuff. He's probably going to burn himself out by turn 3. As long as if you don't have anything to shoot, probably don't use experiment with the actual stratagem until turn 2 or 3, and he should do a lot. So Callion, as I said, I think Shadow Sun's going to be staple in Callion. I don't know how good she's going to be in other detachments because of the changes to the army rule, but she's really good redundancy for when you lose your 3 stealth suits. So she still has that place, and then obviously if you're not taking an ethereal, you're definitely going to be taking Shadow Sun for CP regeneration, and because ethereals, you can leave them off the board for 3 turns and then just drop them into your backfield to hold your backline objective when everything gets cleared out or moved around, and you can still generate command points. Is pretty good. Dark Strider Pathfinder combo, I've been using it, I've been liking it. It's probably not super meta, but it's fun. Again, you know, the same block, 3 stealth suits, 3 carnivores, and 1 Vespid. I think that's a good core for your infantry in most lists. You could probably drop some crew carnivore, squad of crew carnivores, maybe drop a stealth suit and shift things around. You might be able, if you drop a stealth suit crew carnivore, you can probably fit in with something else and you know, squeeze out, drop Shadow Sun for an ethereal. You might be able to squeeze in a breacher squad with the devilfish, and that's also a lot of damage. I think this is going to be a core vehicle combo. So I've been playing with it. It works really well. I don't know if it's completely meta, but 2 Riptides and a Ghost Keel. Riptides are just extremely durable. They have not really this. They're like a middling between a Sunforge and a Fire Knife team with a commander, and it's like 100 points cheaper. So it's probably not 100 points. I don't know the exact points, but it's definitely cheaper than that. And they do roughly not the same equivalent damage, but for the points cost, it's kind of more efficient to certain targets. Ghost Keel and Callion's lists are just really good. They are lone op, which is just amazing. They just go into the center of the board, lone op. You have to move in to charge them, and if you're moving into 18 of a Ghost Keel, you're now in range of the Skyrays and the Hammerheads and the Riptides. 2 Hammerheads, they're the best anti-tank, like high toughness anti-tank option we have, in my opinion. The railguns are just, if they hit and they wound, they're going to knock something out, which is good. Skyrays, 3 of them, they're just so efficient. Like they're hard to kill, and you can just keep them in the back and they'll shoot all game. There's nothing that the enemy can really do, which is what you really want to have happening. And most, like, the reason I'm picking extremely high wound, high toughness comparatively for a Tau army for Callion is because Callion, you want to survive to the 3rd turn, but doing that's gonna, you're gonna sacrifice all your crew, you're gonna sacrifice your Pathfinder. You might have 1 or 2 stealth suits left. Shadow Sun's probably gonna in the mid board targeting stuff for your Riptides. Riptides are gonna be targeting for things and so forth. You might, Ghost Keel might be picked up, stuff like that, because you're trying to get them to push out, and you can target them really well. And turn 3 would get that real big bonus, especially if you start taking like the Skyrays and the Hammerheads. Normally I just take accelerated burst cannons. I think with the changes to Callion, you might actually see them taking SMS, which is pretty neat. So overall, I think the Balance Dataslate was a general boon to the faction. There's some nerfs mixed in to try to keep us, balanced. I think those nerfs are probably unwarranted, but only time will tell. I think this weekend, we're going to be seeing the first wave of actual Dataslate tournaments, so we're going to see what the numbers are looking like. The Titanic models, oh boy, they're not on the menu, but they're not back on the menu, but they're definitely something that you might ask about when you're ordering to see if they have it in stock. They're definitely not competitive again. They're just there now, but they're more casual to play with, because previously they were like, even if you took them into a casual game, it's like, why did I waste my points? Now it's more fun. The Callion change is definitely needed. It still feels bad because, like, yeah, it was sitting at like a 55-56% win rate when you played Tau, but like there's like 4 Tau players for like in the last couple of weeks, actually going to tournaments. Like the play rate of the army just collapsed, so only the best players are bringing Tau to tournaments. And now we're definitely going to see, I think, a resurgence. And I think the Callion change is definitely needed, especially with those top tier players that can make even that garbage of a codex before the update work. The Pathfinder and Stealth Suit nerfs, probably a bit too heavy-handed. I think Pathfinders could probably get double guide and maybe go up to 100 points and keep their damage increase, and I think that would be fair for them, but maybe I'm wrong. Stealth Suits, again, 20 points. I think they're going to revert it, maybe drop it 10 points. and just have them be 70, because 80 points for a stealth suit hurts because you have to take them. It's like nerfing Lord Solar and an Imperial Guard army before the Codex, which is like, if you nerf them, you're just going to nerf the whole Codex. I will die on this hill though. 20-man crew squads did nothing wrong. I don't care what the crew hunting pack win rate was. I don't care what people were saying. If you're having a problem with the 20-man crew squad, it's because I think you might be not as good of a player as what we need to do this. Because yeah, I get it. Crew hunting pack, when they're 20-man, you have like 120 crew on the field, a 5 up invul, -1 to hit. It's frustrating. I get it, but like that's all they are. It's just 140 crew. You know, they're not killing anything. They're just flooding the board. So you just got to have enough anti-infantry, and like most armies now are going to have enough anti-infantry because they're dealing with Death Guard, and maybe the Death Guard being reined in and stuff like that's going to help this. But overall, again, Dataslate was good. Maybe I'm wrong in some of my grievances. Maybe these are completely warranted, and you know, this week is going to show that Tau are now the best army in the game, and everything is coming crashing down, and we got to nerf them immensely. So anyways, thank you all very much for watching. Have a great day.